I've been asked recently by a whole bunch of subscribers to talk about how they can learn using a handgun for the first time. So this is an introductory video very much around the fundamentals of learning to run a handgun, revolver, or pistol. Today we're going to be focusing on a pistol. With regards to the things that you have to know, number one, when you go out and you get a handgun, define what you're getting that handgun for. Don't let the salespeople sell you something they think you need. What we recommend to our students when they say, well, I want to buy a handgun, is we say, how are you going to use that handgun? What's the reason for it? How is it going to be deployed? How are you going to store it? All those kinds of questions need to be answered, and you need to have a good understanding before proceeding. The next thing we need to talk about is firearm safety. Everyone who owns a firearm or is in a house with someone that owns a firearm really needs to understand the four fundamental rules of firearm safety. They are: number one, all guns are loaded. Treat all guns, any and every gun, as if it's loaded. Number two, don't let the muzzle of that gun cross anything you're not willing to destroy or buy. If you don't understand that, go back to rule number one, because we're treating all guns as if they're loaded. Rule number three, finger off the trigger and outside of the trigger guard until such time as your sights are aligned and you've made a conscious decision to press the shot. Number four, beware of your target and what's beyond. Don't start shooting out in your backyard or somewhere if you don't have a good solid backstop that's going to stop the projectile after you fired it from your handgun. One of the key things to do is just be aware of how your gun operates. Guess what? Best place to start, read the manual. Second thing, get training. Whether it's with our group or any others, take a basic firearms class, one that involves live fire. One where someone else can watch you as you're beginning to manipulate the gun to make sure that you're safe. Ultimately, again, firearm safety is everyone's responsibility. Once you've done that and you're going out to the range and you're all excited, you're ready to fire, hey, awesome. I love to shoot. So does everybody who watches this channel. What we really recommend, though, is going slow, taking your time. So you get out to the range, you get your gun unlocked out of its case, whatever condition it was in. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to verify that firearm is unloaded. So in the case of a semi-automatic pistol, we're going to remove the ammunition source, we're going to point the gun in a safe direction, and we're going to cycle the slide, visually inspecting it to make sure the gun is truly unloaded. At that point, if we're ready to fire now and we're safe and we know everybody around us, we've got a good backstop, we know exactly what we're going to do, we can begin to firing. So the first thing we're going to do is chamber around. To do that, simply come across the top of the gun, briskly rack the slide toward your chest while pushing the gun forward. This is called a power stroke. Do not gently try to release the slide or pull it back, because you're usually going to induce a malfunction. Under recoil, that slide is operating very, very fast and very aggressively. So if we're going to work that slide, we want to do the same thing, right? I can now press check, just bringing the gun back enough, slide back enough to see brass in there. And once I've done that, now I'm ready to go. You will note throughout the last 30, 45 seconds, my finger has been straight, my muscle's been pointed in a direction that I know to be safe. So the first thing that we're going to do when we're ready to fire is we're going to identify our target. Here's a big hint for you new shooters. Start with your target at 3 yards, 3 yards maximum. We see shooters all the time who come to our classes, new shooters, and they're used to trying to hit a target at 15 or 25 yards before they've ever mastered sight picture, sight alignment, trigger press, and trigger reset. So being at 25 yards doesn't allow you to understand where you're going wrong. So we've got some different targets out here, and we're just going to talk through that process. Again, firing first shot, this is for beginning students, people who are out and got a handgun for the first time, they've had some training, and now they want to go to the range and they want to practice. So we've got some targets. We're going to put a camera on the targets to show you what this looks like. And what I really want you to pay attention to is the way in which I'm manipulating the gun from a safety standpoint. So I'm a big fan of holsters for the very reason that if my gun is in holster, the trigger is covered and the gun is pointed straight down. Some of you are shooting on ranges where you're not allowed to use holsters. Fair enough. Action open on the bench, fine, no problem with that. So whatever condition you're doing, running it from, we just want to make sure that we're safe. Again, firearm safety, all guns are loaded. Assume they are, no matter what. Number 2, beware of your muzzle. At all times, never let it cross anything you're not willing to destroy or buy. If you don't understand this, go back to rule number 1, all guns are always loaded. Number 3, finger off the trigger until you're at point, ready to press a shot, and you've made a conscious decision to do so. Number 4, beware of your target and what's beyond. All right, let's get to shooting right now. Okay, folks, we're at about 3 yards from our target, maybe 3.5 yards, but what I consider a really good distance to start and to practice with. I shoot a lot of my drills and a lot of the things we do in our classes at short distance. So again, we've confirmed that our gun is loaded, finger is straight, muzzle pointed downrange toward that berm. And what we're going to do, we're going to work on getting a good aggressive grip on the gun, a good firing stance so I'm balanced, I'm squared up to the target, and then I'm simply going to work pressing my trigger very slowly about around the axis of the bore while keeping my sights aligned. So we fired, I don't know, 8, 9 shots, 10 shots maybe, and again, just working slow press. What we're looking for is the group of those shots. So where are they clustered? We're not trying to necessarily have a bullseye shot, because depending on how your sights are adjusted and how you're shooting, you may be a little left, a little high, a little low. You can correct that with your sights, but when you're just getting started out, the main thing is getting that good group. So we've got a decent group there, down at 3.5 yards. We've got them pretty much around an inch. We've got small half-inch dots out there, and that's what we're shooting at. So we're going to move the target now, and we're going to look again at a slightly different target. We're going to work the same things, and I'm going to talk you through this. All right, so again, back to this concept of having a good structure when we shoot. A lot of times I'll go to the range and I'll see people shooting this very vertical kind of stance. And when you're standing this straight up, you're going to get some muzzle flip to the gun. So what we recommend is having a structure where the upper body is just slightly forward of your hips. And you're more in this, more of an aggressive stance as you're presenting the gun and then as you're shooting the gun. So you're very locked in, very stable, a good platform that allows you to be consistent. When it comes to the grip of the gun, what I'm doing is I'll show you with my reverse it here. So I've got a firing grip on the gun with my left hand. With my right hand, my thumb is going toward the target, and I'm rolling the bone between the last knuckle of my index finger forward on the grip. So that's what it looks like. And then my arms are coming straight out toward the target, right, from this standpoint. I like this grip because it allows me to put a great deal of squeeze onto the gun, making it very, very stable and very consistent during shooting, particularly as I shoot faster. Again, whatever works. What does not work real well is people who have this kind of grip where they're sort of holding it here, or they see this Hollywood stuff where they're holding the gun here. You really gotta have a good grip on the gun. It's got to be locked in both hands. So with my grip here, I've got a good firing grip on the gun. My body's slightly forward. Again, muzzle pointed in a safe direction, finger off the trigger until I'm on point. Got a 1-inch square down there. I'm 3.5 yards away. Once I'm on point, So as you're first learning to fire those initial shots, as you're getting used to the gun, work on going slow, shoot small targets, work on being precise, align the front sight to the rear sight, focus on the front sight, and then slowly press your shot. So as I've got my gun out, right, picked it up from the bench, chambered around, I come out. Once I'm on point, my fingers on the trigger. And we're able to just, go nice and slow and be consistent. I strongly urge you new shooters to work on shooting slowly and really work on the trigger press. As you'll note when I shoot, my finger's not releasing all the way off. I'm only releasing the trigger far enough to allow it to reset. And this is called prepping the trigger, riding the trigger reset. So I'm going to get real close to the camera and let you guys see this. So as I'm firing my shot, I let the trigger out until I hear and feel the click. So once that trigger resets, I can press my shot, but I'm not in a hurry to do it. Press, reset, press. So as you'll note, by doing that, we're able to get very consistent shot placement. And ultimately, that's the first place we need to start after being super focused on firearm safety. So once we've done that, then we can move to shooting a little faster, which we'll cover in a subsequent video, subsequent application. But what I want you to take away is, one, firearm safety is everybody's responsibility. All guns are always loaded. You must assume that. Number two, beware of your muzzle. Keep it pointed in a safe direction. Do not point at anything you're not willing to destroy or buy. If you don't understand that, go back to rule number one. Rule number three, finger off the trigger until your sights are aligned and you've made a conscious decision to press a shot. I like that last point, conscious decision. I'm not pressing a shot unless I decide to do it. Doesn't happen randomly. I make a decision to do it. Number four, beware of your target and what's beyond. So anyway, folks, that's a quick overview. Tips for new shooters firing their first shots. Really appreciate all you watching. Thank you, and as always, stay safe.